With Adam Klapka signed, that leaves just 3 RFAs remaining for the Calgary Flames to get deals done.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosta. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are going to go through the list of the remaining restricted free agents, Kevin Bahl, Morgan Frost, and Connor Zary, and talk about what their next contracts might be, how they stepped up this year, what changed, did they regress at all, and what could their paychecks be looking like next season. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And let's jump right into this with Kevin Bahl. Kevin Bahl was the main piece of the Jacob Markstrom trade that happened just about a year ago now. He came back with a first-round pick that sent Jacob Markstrom over to New Jersey. He was pretty much a third-pairing defenseman. He was fine. Sheltered role, really didn't have any big moments or anything that, made you think, like, okay, this is a top pairing guy. Like, he was not given the opportunity to step up and show that he's capable of taking on more ice time and more responsibility. But he stepped up big in Calgary. Conroy and Huska trusted him on Rasmus Anderson's left side. And, it's not... It wasn't horrible. I think that he definitely proved that he's capable. I think that he is a great shutdown defenseman, which is why I think next season he should play with Weegar. Let's say the Flames end up trading Anderson. I would love to see Bahl and Weegar together. I think that would be a fantastic top pairing for the Flames, and it would bring back that true defense that the Flames had seasons ago when they had one of the best decors in the league with Anderson, Hanifin, Tanev, Zadorov, Shillington. Like, there were so many good players that just made you feel secure and you weren't holding your breath anytime they were on the ice. But I think that there is a possibility you see him with Weegar next season, even if Anderson isn't traded. I think that the Flames are going to get a little bit more creative this offseason, given the fact that they are looking to integrate players like Zane Parekh into the lineup. They're going to have to get silly. So I am using the win column as a trusted source, as a resource. They did a great job. Let's see. Drew did a great job putting together comparable contracts. And the first one on his list is Alexander Romanov, who is on a $2.75 million deal for 3 years. Romanov was acquired by a new team in the New York Islanders and was set to play, like, they played a similar role, basically. The only thing is that Romanov is just a few months older than Bahl was at the time of this signing. So I think this next contract that Romanov signs is going to be a better comparable. This next one is one that is close home for me, and that would be Brandon Carlo at $4.1 million for 6 years. I think that this is a very good comparison. Carlo and Bahl have both come wavelengths, miles, since their NHL debuts and their initial intended use. Both are big players. Didn't really know how to use their size. Bahl still struggles. There isn't much offensive production from Carlo. but he's still blocking shots. He uses his body well, and he's not afraid to get gritty. And I think that that's where we will see Bahl take that next step. I think that we will see him just get more comfortable using his size to his advantage. And I think he has a great group of mentors around him, especially with Uyghur. And is Michael Stone still with the organization in like that coaching capacity or an advising role? I think that he, a good mentor there. I think obviously Anderson, anyone in the Flames organization is highly respected, I would say. All of the veterans. And to me, I think for Bahl to go from playing with Anderson to Uyghur would be great. I think it would strengthen his game even more and get him more comfortable being a true shutdown defenseman. So I like that contract. I don't know if I would sign him for 6 years. I think 3 to 4 would be more, I'd be more comfortable with, maybe 5. That personally, that's just, I get a little nervous when it comes to things like that, especially when you've only gotten 1 season out of him. To me, it's like when they signed Sharon Govich and it was like they put all their eggs in one basket. However, obviously play different roles, different situations, but I think that the defensive group with Bahl in it is solid. I like it. He proved me wrong. I thought that it was just going to be another Nikita Zadorov situation, just lots of penalties, mismanagement, third pairing, like it just not good. Zadorov did eventually grow on me, though, I will say. So for Bahl to stick around in Calgary would be nice. I would like to see that. I think that he is someone that has flown under the radar and flew under the radar in Jersey and hopefully can thrive in Calgary. I think that that's a solid possibility. But coming up next, we are going to talk about Morgan Frost and just kind of where do we go from here? Because you got the change of scenery. You had a little bit of an adjustment period settling into Calgary, but now you need a new contract. So what does that look like? Up next on Locked On Flames. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no shell salt and vinegar variety. If I don't have one in my pantry, I am running to the convenience store to grab a pack. They're so delicious. I like how quick and easy they are to eat, and just they're delicious, like I've mentioned, and give me fuel for my busy schedule. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following along wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And Morgan Frost, I feel like, was a name that we had seen out there for at least 3 seasons in regards to players that would be on the move. And truly, this was an out-of-nowhere deal. Kuzmenko was scratched from the game, which didn't seem overly odd because he had been scratched a few games before. But this time, people, like, there was whispers of a trade happening. And then Jacob Pelletier was snatched from the game. And then Morgan Frost disappeared from Philadelphia's bench. And there they were. Trading places happened, and obviously Farabee and Frost came over to Calgary, while Kuzmenko and Pelletier and 2 picks went over to Philly. To me, Morgan Frost is a player that really needed that change of scenery. And I think he has yet to hit his stride with consistency. I don't think that is necessarily a reason to write him off just yet. I don't think that's a reason to, say, oh, he just needs a 1-year deal. I think that his time in Philadelphia ended because John Tortorella just wasn't getting what he wanted out of him and threw him to the wayside, as one does. And so his fresh start in Calgary allowed him to get comfortable, to take on a new role in a new organization and a new system with a coach that wasn't necessarily, he didn't play hardball all the time. He's capable of feeling human emotion. This is another comparison list by Drew from the win column, and I'm going to draw comparison to Michael Backlund. So he is on a 3-year, $3.575 million contract. This was a contract that he signed at 26. So after Backlund signed the contract, was a lot more comparable to Frost's, but his solidified role is enough to draw some similarities. They play a similar game style, which is why I'd say a 26-year-old Backlund is the most comparable to Frost. I think that Backlund had obviously developed with the Flames and was drafted by the Flames and had all that extra time with the organization. But I think that Frost is still coachable and moldable, and you can teach him new things. He's a solid two-way player that just needs a little bit of coaching and support. Alex Iafallo is one other contract signing here that Drew listed. So at the midway mark of the 2021 bubble season, Iafallo signed a contract extension with the LA Kings in his 4th season, 4 years at $4 million a year. Frost just finished his 4th full season at the same age, and both play a similar two-way middle six game. And both of their production point-wise is pretty much the same as well. Pavel Zacha is another comparison. Zacha is a New Jersey Devils cast-off. He was traded to Boston in the Eric Holla trade. And he was halfway through his first season with the Bruins after being acquired when he signed this contract. And they played a similar amount of games with the Flames, and they don't play the same game at all, but their production at the point of the contract signing is similar. It's comparable. They're the same exact age. So I think that or they'll be the same exact age when the contract is signed. And the two main differences between the two are Zacha was in the middle of a career year and already had a trusted role, and that can be a slight increase in pay compared to what the Flames will give Frost this summer. For reference, Zacha is making $4.7 million. I don't think the Flames are going to do anything more than 2 years. I think 3 years would be a stretch. I think that this is going to be a situation where he has to prove it. You can't just hand out a 6-year contract to Morgan Frost because he's a 23-year-old or 25-year-old center. You can't do that. That would be roster mismanagement. That would be player mismanagement, and ultimately setting yourself up for a potential disaster. I think that Frost could really benefit from obviously 2 full seasons in Calgary under Ryan Huska in the system with this new responsibility and this new philosophy around the organization. I think that the Flyers obviously did what they could, but at the end of the day, Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee needed clean starts, clean slates. And the Flames are in this position where they are, they're building and fostering a very welcoming environment, which is not a bad thing at all. I think it's important to know that, you can be that clean slate for a player. And I hope that with that comes more production from Frost. I want to see more from him. I think it's reasonable to expect that, especially if you give him a raise this summer. I think 2 years is a perfect amount of time. And then you're not locked up long term, but you can still sign him at 28 years old and do what you have to do there. It's fairly simple, I would say. Frost, like I'd said at the start, he was on everyone's radar for a trade for honestly 2 or 3 seasons. And that's tough because he never really found his footing in Philly in terms of consistency, staying in good graces with the coach, and being able to make the most of what was available to him. And maybe it's because coaching issues or personality clashing, whatever the case may be, I don't think that it's lost on Morgan Frost that this is a new start for him. And he's grateful for it. So hopefully he has some luck this summer and, we see some more training and we get to see some more Morgan Frost goals this season. But I think a 2-year at $4.5 million is plenty of a deal. And coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with the one and only Connor Zary. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And let's talk about Connor Zary, because Connor Zary is an interesting character. He was a player that struggled a little bit with injuries in the AHL and then got called up to the Flames unexpectedly. And he just took off like a bat out of heck. And he joined the Flames organization back in 2020 when he was drafted 24th overall. He has played 117 games and has scored 27 goals. I think that the biggest red flag for me and for anyone is injury. And I don't like saying a player is injury prone because sometimes stuff happens. Like we talked about Brandon Carlo earlier. His first 3 seasons in the NHL, he did not play in the playoffs either because I think he missed the first 2 because of concussions. And then on the final game of the season, he broke his ankle. And it was finally going to be his time to play in the playoffs. And it just didn't happen. So these things happen. And he's maintained a relatively healthy time since. And these things happen, whether you get tangled up wrong, collisions, you hit the boards wrong, you get dinged up. Like whatever happens. But with the Zary having back-to-back knee injuries within the same season, within like 6-7 weeks of each other, it is tough. It is tough. And I think that it can't be lost on people, especially when a lot of his early development was, I want to say derailed, but it was pushed aside. It was delayed because he had injuries. He had a broken ankle and just injuries here and there. So you have to be considerate or conscious of those. And for comparables, Drew put together Shane Pinto at number 1, who signed a 2-year, $3.75 million contract. He is the near perfect comparable for Zary at this point in his career. At that time of the signing, Pinto and Zary will have almost the same exact amount of games played at the age of 23. Both missed some times for very different reasons. If you remember, Pinto was suspended for half a season due to gambling. But anyways, Pinto signed his deal with 62 points in his career, playing a middle six role, similar to Zary. They don't play the same game. Pinto is more of a goal scorer, while Zary is more of a playmaker. However, both have filled out a resembling resume at the points in their career. Good two-way results with solid production. If a bridge deal is the route for Zary, I wouldn't be surprised if it looked similar to this. I think that this is another situation where the Flames have to do a 2-year deal or 3-year deal. They can't afford to put all their eggs in one basket here either. And it's not because he's not deserving. It is erring on the side of cautions because just the several injuries getting in the way of his development early on, and then early on in his NHL time, is just very worrisome. And it's nothing that Zary's done. It is not his fault. It is just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And I think that a reasonable raise would be to about $3.5, $4 million. I think Zary deserves that. Like Matt Coronado is making $6.7 million for the next 7 years. I think that Zary just has to, again, continue his rehabilitation with his knees. He has to get stronger. He has to, I think, put on a little bit more weight. I think just filling out into an adult will help. I think that will be of great benefit. I do see Zary as part of this team long term. His whole career, probably not. But I do see him part of this next wave of Flames. And I hope that he's still on the team when they make the playoffs the next time. I think that he has the potential to be a good, consistent goal scorer. The same way I talked about Klapka being a great net front presence the other day, I think Zary does a fantastic job around the net. And he has that finishing touch that the Flames have been looking for 2 or 3 years now. So I think that you're looking at a 2-year deal to be safe. And then, let him prove it. He's capable of doing that. I'm in full belief of that. But I want to see it because he deserves a shot. And, obviously from the Flames management perspective, you want to make sure you're investing in the right guy and you're not getting too ahead of yourself and seeing or believing in something that you're not seeing, and giving a player the benefit of the doubt. But if he can't turn it around, then what are we going to do if you have him tied up in $6 million for the next 7 years? That would be pretty bad. It'd be a pretty tough situation to be in. And for me, I think all of these players, Bahl, Frost, and Zary, have come a very long way. Kevin Bahl exceeded my expectations as a top pairing defenseman this season. Morgan Frost, I did not expect him to become a Flyer at the expense of Jacob Pelletier, or didn't expect him to become a Flame at the expense of Jacob Pelletier. And Connor Zary, I certainly did not expect him to be injured twice. Pretty big knee injuries. Second one was avoided, and I will always be aggravated with Mikko Rantanen for that one. But all of these players they've earned their next contract, regardless of what it is. I think they have all worked very hard, overcome some level of adversity and some sort of they've proven themselves in one way or another. And I hope that this next contract, whatever it looks like for each of them, they're able to earn that next one too, and earn themselves a nice pay raise, along with, some decent accommodations on this contract. I don't think any of them are necessarily going to be requesting suites or, solo hotel rooms, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe we'll see something done by the end of this week. I think that we will likely see Justin Kirkland re-signed before we see any of these guys, but I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see the RFAs locked up before we know it. And don't worry, whenever that happens, we'll have you covered here on Locked On Flames. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out and making the show part of your day. And that'll do it for me here today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.